Hi, it's Jared from Strong Roots Farm. Today I'm going to be going over a little farm update, some of my past projects to kind of show you where we're at, just to kind of keep you updated, and also going to go over the new drying rack that I did and my mix for seed trays. So that's all coming up today. Stay tuned. All right, to start, I've showed you my sifting table, my drying rack, and my packing table all in one in a previous video. If you haven't seen that, please go back and look at that. Today I have done, or this week, I have done the drying rack. Now, if you've looked at other market gardeners or urban farmers and how they have their packing station set up, they have a nice wood frame around their fans. And I had planned on doing all that. A nice wood frame, one to have a surge protector on it, plugged into the wall, a lowering rack, all that kind of stuff. And the purpose is as we wash our greens especially, but really any vegetable, we can then put it on this drying rack, lower the fans down, and that kind of helps. We will spin our greens as well. So as I went along through this, I wanted to kind of do some testing. I bought cable, I bought crimpers. I had all the stuff to make it a little nicer. But as I started, I just went with these bungee cords just to try to make sure my hoists and everything were gonna be the right height. And then I thought, well, why do I need anything fancy? So this is kind of what I got. I'm gonna stick with this. As I need to make it look nicer in the future, I will. And so you can see I just got 4 bungee cords there, kind of hooked together, hooked in the fan, and then hooked to my capo at the top. Cord goes down here to the wall, which then I have the ratcheting hinge there on my fan. I only need 1 fan. I'm just gonna do this as an urban setting to feed myself and the few little customers that I'll have. This is more about the education of what I'm doing, and I like to grow our own food, and so it's those things. So for me, 1 fan is fine. I do have a 4-foot table here. The fan sits in the center. It will sit anywhere from 16 to 20 inches above the greens, and the air is enough to touch them all. It won't dry as fast as some of the other ones I've seen on Facebook or on YouTube. It's not meant to be that way. It's not meant to be intensive. Bought the cheapest fan on Amazon I could find. So I'm doing this real cheap just because I only need it for a certain thing. You do not need this. If you're a home grower and you say, hey, I just want to spin them and use a little normal tabletop salad spinner, go out, harvest what you're going to eat that night, spin it in your house, and you're good to go. Wash and eat and enjoy. But if you're going to package and sell, this is something really nice to have. I do recommend if you're going to be selling a lot at farmers markets and those types of things, you get something, you build 2 together, or a little more volume of air. It will help it to dry faster. And the better it dries, the quicker you can pack. And also the better it dries, the longer it will stay preserved. So your customers will be able to come back and say, hey, I still have some of what I bought last week, but I'm going to run out today or tomorrow. And that's the goal, is that they eat everything that you buy every Saturday. And but it will last I've had it last for up to 20 days before. So 10 to 14 days in a fridge is pretty standard. So that's much longer than the stuff you'll buy at a grocery store, but this is how you do it. You get it super clean, or don't wash it at all. If there's no mud splatter up, there's no reason to wash. You can wash right before you eat, but this will help your presentation if you're gonna sell at the farmers markets. So as you can see, beds are growing, or going at least. We've prepared those. If you haven't seen those videos, jump back. I did spread wood chips. I had a load of wood chips delivered. I got wood chips in all of my aisles, and the wood chips are now about even. The beds may be raised about a ½ inch to an inch above the wood chips. And there's some concern about wood chips in aisles, which I've talked about in previous videos about them pulling nitrogen. Everything that I've seen, everything that I've studied says that it will not. Okay, so I have not had that issue on my farm. I've talked about that in the past. Now, if you're gonna till those in, I can see how those wood chips would draw nitrogen from the ground to break down. They are high carbon, they are chunky, they're big wood chips, and they will require nitrogen. But as a walking path and on top of the surface, I'm not planting into the wood chips are fine. So go back and look at previous videos if you wanna see that. My box, you can see that in a previous video as well. Got my worms in there, I've been feeding them. I covered it with the greenhouse plastic, and I would recommend not doing that. I won't call that a failure, but it pretty much is. One thing that I started to notice on the vegetables that I would put in on my table scraps is that I would start to get some mold growth, which isn't harmful. The worms will be fine with it, but that is due to lack of air. The greenhouse plastic was keeping it warm. I was really concerned about making my worms freeze. It's been down in the single digits here a couple nights. So I was really concerned about that, mainly because the soil, the ground itself was frozen on top, not necessarily deep. It never got cold enough here that the ground got 10 inches of freeze, you know, the frost level that low. But in this box, it's above ground. It's 32 inches across, something like that. And so it's only 16 inches to the center, really. So if you think about that, it only has to freeze 16 inches to get to the center and freeze all your worms. I haven't heard any problems with those before, but that's why I had the greenhouse plastic there. I'm new to the worms and the growing my own worm castings and all that stuff, but I did take the plastic off. As long as it's below 0 here, I'm gonna leave it off and let the air get to it and help the compost continue to produce heat on its own. So that's one update on that box. Nothing's changed. I filled it with my compost, been dumped my worms in, and I've been feeding vegetable scraps on top. I do have a big piece of cardboard that's on top of all of those so that the worms can stay dark and things. But other than that, that's going. So here behind me, you'll notice basically a pile of hay on the ground. And so I'm gonna do something very different. I've studied this a lot and seen that other people do this. This is called the Ruth Stout method. So this is where you'll throw down hay or straw, and then you'll raise a crop in it. I'm gonna raise potatoes in this. Now there's a couple different methods. You can put this down right as you're planting your potatoes. So you have your compost or whatever on top, put your potatoes down and then just cover it with this. And but there's also this method of putting it down in the late fall and the water and the snow begin to rot it. It also chokes out the weeds underneath. And hopefully, I've seen when people rake away the hay, there's a ton of worm castings because the earthworms are coming up and eating the hay. So that's what I'm hoping for. I'm hoping to see some rotting hay at the very bottom. I'm hoping to see some worm castings come into it and grow my fertility there. But then I'm also gonna rake away rows and plant my potatoes in it and then put the hay back on top. So some notes about hay, some things you need to think about. I'm only explaining hay versus straw because my wife didn't know when we first got married. If you don't understand what the difference between hay and straw. So hay, what farmers typically will call hay, comes from grasses. It's grown in a pasture-like setting. They bale it. The bales, the square bales, if you're buying square bales, will look about the same to the average naked eye. But it's made from grasses, typically your timothys and alfalfas and clovers. It's pasture grasses that they bale for eating of the animal. So whether it's cattle hay or horse hay or whatever it's made for, that's hay. Straw, on the other hand, comes from wheat. So the stalk of wheat grows, they harvest the straw low. As it goes through the combine separates the wheat from the chaff, and then it blows the chaff out the back. They bale that into straw. Straw in America is typically used for bedding. I don't like straw. It's okay for bedding. Not really. I wouldn't use it today if I was raising animals, mainly because they tend to spray it with Roundup. And so I've seen some issues where people got compost, got rotted horse manure, got cow manure from farmers. They had straw in it, and this Roundup is not supposed to transfer over into your meat. It's not supposed to transfer over into the manure, but we've seen it happen. So organic people are all against using straw because they don't know if it's been sprayed or not. It will transfer into the manure as it composts. And I had a friend who got some horse manure that had straw mixed in with it. The horse manure was 5 years old. She put it on her rows where she planted tomatoes. The tomatoes curled up on the edges and turned yellow. Through the ag extension agent in her area, she found out it was due to residual Roundup left from the straw in the manure pile 5 years. So don't use straw. It's too unsafe. There's too much chance you don't know what you're getting, especially if you're buying it from a big box store or something like that. Now, hay, on the other hand, tends to not be sprayed because when you spray Roundup, it will kill the grasses in the hay. So farmers tend not to do that. I would still, for me personally, I know the guy who raised this. I know what he's raising it for. It's for horses. I know what's going on. He's not spraying his fields. These fields have been pastured and hay for multiple years. So I know that there's no Roundup in this hay. That's why I'm using this. So it is important if you're going to use this method that you get a good source of ground covering. So that's my update. I have ordered my seeds. I have done some things around here. I've been working on the house a lot, but that's kind of where I'm at. So we're mid-February, February 11th today, I think. And that's kind of where you should be. You should start thinking about that. I've got my trays. I've got my mixes. I would like, we got snow yesterday. I was gonna seed onions this past weekend, but we've been getting snows and it's not gonna get above the 20s at night for another couple weeks. So you're at this dilemma. How early do you want to start trays? Do you have an area to start trays? Do you have a heated greenhouse? Do you at least have a heat pad? So if you have a greenhouse where it's protected and you have a heat pad, I'd say go ahead and get started outside. If you can start inside, there are certain plants that you can start a week. Remember, they're going to be a week once you start these trays before they actually need sunlight. So you can start them in your house. But if you have a bay window or something that's getting at least 6 to 8 hours of sun a day, that's a good spot if you have a place like that at your house. I don't have that. I may try to start onions this weekend. I want to get ahead on that. And then we'll get into the salad mixes and we'll go through all that. I have my schedule, and on my schedule, I did not plan on starting trays until March 1st. So I do have 20 days here to play with, but if I can get started early, I want to. So I want to go over the seed mix though, on what I'm using and how I found it. See the table? I have 3 things that I'm going to use. I have not been able to find locally at a store a good tray seeding mix that I'm happy with. So I bought it on Amazon, and unfortunately it's upside down, but I bought the Sunshine Mix number 4 from SunGrow. It came through Amazon. It shipped just in that big bag like that, and I've got that. Next, I will add azomite, which is my rock mineral, and I will also add my kelp. And so I'm gonna show you how I'm gonna do that real quick, and we'll go over that. My screening process, I've dumped my growers mix on here. You don't have to do this. If you take it straight out, it's pretty fine here. I mean, if you see it, it's got the vermiculite, it's got some peat already into it, and so you can probably put this right into your trays and be fine. But I have the sifter, so I'm gonna sift it, and the way I'm gonna do this is just put it on my screen, move it back and forth until it falls out, and then I'll show you kind of what's left over and what I'm gonna do with that. Here's what I have left. You can see I've got a few sticks here, things that look like this, little things, and this is probably fine. This would really clog up your seed tray, so I'm glad I went ahead and sifted this. But what I'm gonna do is take this and just gather it up and throw it in my compost. There you have it. You can see that it is very fine now. Okay, so I've sifted that through. I have that 1/4 inch mesh. That's what I went through. So you can see that I've mixed it here as well. So I'll mix all this together, and then this is what I will seed. So what did I add to it amenity wise? I've got my kelp right there from Down to Earth. I ordered this on Amazon as well. There's also Dr. Earth or something like that, another kelp meal. And then I have my azomite. Okay, so this came in a 44-pound bag. You do not need that much if you're a small home grower, but you definitely should buy it. There you have it. That's the updates that I've got going on. I might seed some onions tonight just to see how they go. The kids kind of like to do that. So we'll get going on that. I always get these weird comments about, where did you get this stuff? Can you please put links below? Can you do all that stuff? I'm not on YouTube to make money. I don't have big write-ups. I don't have a podcast that you need to follow. I don't have a support channel. I don't have any of that kind of stuff. I'm just here to try to help you. So I do hope that this does help. But I said I found most of this on Amazon. If you don't have Amazon, I don't know where in the world you live, but that's how I found this stuff, because there's not something local. My way is not the perfect way. You need to find something local is what I do recommend. If you have a big nursery that's local, they may be able to help you with that stuff. I want you to be able to find what's readily available, what's easy for you, what works for you in your setting. So what I do here in Ohio, I'm in Southern Ohio, 15 minutes away from the Ohio River. So what works for me may not work for you on every setting. So always take my videos into context. But this is where I got it. You can obviously get it from Amazon just like I did. I will continue to show you as I seed trays, as we plant, the dates, all those things, and we'll be able to track all that. So I'll show you that. I'll go over tools. So I've got my Jang and my tilther and all the different things. I'll go over tools sometime throughout the year. You don't need any of these things. And I'll show you all that stuff as we go through it. But that's an update where we're at today.
As always, thanks for watching. Tell your mama and them. Subscribe and comment to continue with us on this journey.
And don't forget to check out Noah Smith at noahsmithmusic.com.